Hello. Hi, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Hi, good evening. Hello. If you're here, please say hi. Good evening. How are you doing today? Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for being here. How are you doing? If you're here, hi. Hi, home Aniola. Hi, good evening. How you doing? How you doing? Please say hi if you're here. Thank you for being here. How's your week going? It's Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. I am great. Thank you for asking. Thank you for joining us tonight. And it's a Q&A session. So please, if you have a question, kindly type those in the comments. Any question about funding? I will start with the ones I have. However, I still want you to please go ahead and type in the comments any questions you have about property funding, particularly for investment properties. Hi, Meg. Good evening. How are you doing? How are you? Mm, okay. So if you're here, please say hi. Sometimes I can't fully see everything, but I'm trusting that Facebook is good. Good evening. How are you? Please say hi in the comments if you're here. And welcome. Tonight we'll be talking about funding, and it would be a Q&A, so I would need your feedback, please. My name is Yinka Olumorin, and I am a real estate investor, a coach on this wonderful platform, a coach by chance. It was not my intention, but it did go from going, providing help, advice, resources to friends, and it started to extend from friends to other people, and then we had to put systems in place. Here we are today with our wonderful community of great people learning about real estate, doing real estate. So if you're thinking fix and flip, if you're thinking rental properties, owning properties for passive income, cash flow, on a month to month basis, on a year to year basis, or even just buying and selling properties, you are at the right place. So I welcome you again tonight. So please go ahead and keep typing those questions in the comments. I see a question here. Please go ahead and type any questions on property funding. Okay. And yeah, you guys go ahead and do that. Go ahead and do that. Maybe we can even do a live advice on your specific situation. If you're comfortable sharing, that would be okay by me. If you wanted to, you know we can do something like that where, I mean, you don't have to share everything, but maybe things like your property score, maybe how much down payment you have, any peculiarities, and I can give you something on the surface that can help you. So let me know about all of that. If funding has been the biggest challenge, the reason for this session is really to help with that, to make sure that you're not really feeling like funding is the only thing that's holding you back. There are a lot of options, there are a lot of ways to go about those things. And so, yes, I would like to hear from you, and that way we can move forward. If we're not clarifying objections, then, there's no way to move forward. But if we're clarifying objections and making sure that things are, you have a proper understanding of where you should be and what you should do, then we're moving in the right direction. Okay, so I see your questions. Hi, Meg, are you there? Are you tagging the folks who wanted to be tagged? Okay, so here I have a question that says, aside a good credit and W two, what else did do I need to qualify for funding? So if you wanted to buy a house for yourself, yes, you would need your W two. But if you wanted to buy an investment property, you don't need a W two. Nobody looks at your income. So if you can clarify, which one is it? Are you trying to buy an investment property, or are you trying to buy a personal home for yourself? So for investment properties, you don't need a W 2. We use asset based lenders and they look at the peculiarities of the property. So things like the numbers. How much are you buying it for? How much would this property um, eventually sell for? How much repairs does this property need? All of that, it's a numbers game when it comes to real estate investing. And that's why it's very newbie friendly, because anyone can understand the numbers and anyone can pretty much qualify for funding or use creative funding. A good credit is anything from 600 and up. The better your credits, the better the terms you get, the better your options and choices of lenders. Am I frozen? Why am I frozen on Instagram? Please confirm that everything is okay. I just want to make sure I'm not frozen on Facebook, but it looks like I am frozen on Instagram. Please let me know if I'm frozen or do I need to wait a little bit. Okay, so Biola says investment property. Investment property, yes. Okay, cool. You said no, I'm not frozen. Okay, so it's just on my end. Yes, for investment property, you don't need, because guess what? If you're qualifying based on your job and you have a certain income, you have a certain debt to income ratio, that's not going to change. You can only buy maybe one property, and it might not even be the property that you want to buy. So the W 2 route limits you because you can't make more than what you're making right now by magic, right? Maybe except you get a promotion, a little bit of a raise here and there, but it's not dramatically going to just move you up by 100,000 in income. No matter how much you try, that's very limiting when you're trying to use that W 2 to qualify. So it might be tough if you're not earning that much and you're maybe your W2 is qualifying for 300K property and you need to buy more than that in a year. So no, that's not how it works, and the requirements are are simpler than when if you were trying to qualify for a personal home. It's a shorter process, it's more straightforward, and yeah, so a credit 600 plus is good. 600 plus. The higher you are, the better. Some lenders will still struggle with 600 on the dots, but the higher you move from 600, the better. Okay? So if you're 500, you really want to see how you want to move up. If you don't have anything crazy going on with your credit, like a lot of late payments and maybe derogatory statements, um maybe collections and things like that that are unresolved, you should be able to move quickly from 500 to 600 if you know what to do. If you need a credit training, just type credits in the comments. I'll have Meg send that over to you. So if you need it's really just things to do to boost your credit, and the things that matter as as long as credit is concerned. What are the things you need to put in place to um to boost your credit? So there are little tweaks here and there that you can make to make your credit better. Okay, so type credit in the comments if you want that. I'm just turning on my AC here because it seems a little bit um hot, or maybe it's because I am talking. Okay, cool. So yes, does that make sense, or do you have any follow-up questions to that? Okay, thank you. Said no, I'm not frozen. So let me know if you have a follow-up question. I'm really interested. I want to make sure that you get the whole gist for that. What else do I need to qualify for funding? I think we talked about that. So you need your knowledge, right? Aside a good credit and W2, no, not W2, but what else do I need to qualify for funding? Make sure the numbers make sense. If you know what you're doing, the lenders see that they're comfortable funding you, and that's it. Even if you're a newbie, even if that's your first deal, if the numbers work, they have no reason not to fund you. So it's less about you, it's more about the investment itself, if the investment makes sense. Okay. Okay, cool. So that's one question. The other one here says if me and two friends have a good credit score, we could combine our funding or apply together. Why would you want to do that? I'm curious. So, when I talk to coaching students, I talk about partnerships and I say a partnership is a collaboration between two people. One person brings what the other person doesn't have. So, if you need a couple of things to make a deal work, let's say you need money, you need credit score, you need a deal. If somebody brings the deal, somebody brings the credit score for the LLC you're about to form together, and somebody brings what else? Maybe money, maybe the down payments before the lenders come in. The deal is done. But if you and your friend need the same thing, you all need experience, you all need knowledge, you all need deal. There's no point doing a collaboration just to have that companionship. That's not how joint venture projects work. So you're just going to complicate the project for no reason. The more people you have outside of your family, so to speak, if you have a partner, spouse, or something, it's like one buddy, right? But once it's outside of that, then now the accounting becomes complicated. There are a lot of other things that happen. There's room for a lot of things to happen if you're not taking care of, you know what I mean. um, Things can get confusing, there can be miscommunications. So make sure that it's really worth it to partner with somebody else. Make sure they have what you don't have. Make sure they're bringing something to the table that you do not bring to the table, and that's really how a good partnership works. But feel free to clarify, what funding are you combining, because when it comes to lenders, how much, and that leads us to the question, how much do you really need to buy an investment property? How much do you really need? Because that's also another question here. How much do you need? Let me ask you guys back. How much do you think you need to buy an investment property? How much? Take a wild guess. How much do you need? Credit is currently good. Okay, good. That's good. If your credit is good, you've solved a lot of the problem. You don't have to be creative to get funding, right? So you're in a good spot. If you have the credit, if you have the knowledge, even if you don't have the money, a deal is going to work out, because the credit allows you to leverage, right? Credit allows you to leverage funding. So you have to now know how to leverage funding. Knowledge is easy, right? You just need to acquire it. You have credits, and sometimes don't take your good credit for granted. Some people actually struggle with this a lot, like year after year, maybe for one mistake or the other. Maybe they had a time in their lives where things weren't that great and they made some choices that weren't the best, and so they sometimes people struggle to build that back up. So if you have good credit, that's great. Don't take that opportunity for granted. Make sure you act on it and make sure you use it in the best way possible, because it's supposed to be an asset. A good credit score is an asset. A good credit score will make you a lot of money in America, right? That's how the system is. A good credit score will make you a lot of money. Now, the only other thing you need is how to, right? So bring that information together and make money with what you have. Leverage, and that's what we call it. Use what you have, the little you have, to make something happen. bring something else in, which is that lending component, which would be your leverage. So that helps you to really go for big deals, even if you didn't have that money sitting in your account. So Biola, I see you're saying I did ask a question. Did anyone answer that? I don't know. Anyways, sorry, I'm just seeing the Facebook comments. My apologies. Ooh. Hello, Mimi. Good evening. How are you doing? um, okay, good. I see some responses on how much do you think you need. Uh-huh, yeah. So Biola says it depends on the area. I agree. I agree. Ruth says 30K upwards. Okay. Cash down. Okay. Okay. That's a good try, actually. So you need like Biola says, it depends on the area. For instance, a property purchase price is 100K. Now, I don't know why people feel like they cannot find properties like that. Just because you live in an expensive neighborhood doesn't mean that or an expensive state doesn't mean that every state is like yours. There are still states that have low price point properties. Just 2 days ago or so, I was doing some research. I was scrolling from page to page on 50K properties, guys, and it's just not just in one area; it's in multiple areas. So there's still a lot of cheap properties in certain states, right? So 100K is actually extremely realistic. So let's say you're buying a property for 100K and you had to put in 50K to fix it up, make it look good. And the property is going to be worth 200 plus eventually, right? So now your purchase price is 100K. Okay, so you don't have 100K. What's going to happen? You need 10%, right? So we have affiliate lenders actually within coaching that would cover um 5 to 10% for newbies, right? So 10% is conservative. So 5%, if that's what you needed, 5% of 100K is 5,000, right? 10% of 100K is 10,000, right? What if you needed to buy a purchase price 200K property? So that's 20,000 for 10%, and that's 10,000 for 5%. If you're a repeat, if you're not a newbie, you could potentially even get funding for up to 100% of your purchase price. We also have affiliate lenders that would do 100% on purchase price and 100% on repair. So you see how it's possible to not come up with money. Like people think it's not true, but it's true. So yes, maybe in the higher end neighborhood, maybe then you need that 30,000, but I don't think that most neighborhoods would need that, maybe except you're adding, maybe you're buying for 150, you add a closing cost, there were like a bunch of things you had to take care of, maybe pre-draw to, I don't know, uh that you would need that upfront for the kind of properties that we invest in. And we're always trying to move sweat equity by doing work on the property. If you're not doing work on the property, you're wasting money. You're wasting money because you're buying property for too much. It's too expensive. It's not going to pay you. So when you're doing the traditional loans at 20% down, because some people feel like they cannot buy a property without putting 20% down. Um, um, at full price, because now we're talking that 100K property ends up being worth 210, 250 or more, right? Depending on how good the deal is. And then you are the non-investor who has no clue what to do. You just want to buy a property. So now you buy that property at 210, 250 instead of buying it at 100K, putting in that work and making a lot of money in the middle, either as equity or as cash outs, right? So you are now skipping that whole thing. You're putting down a big chunk of money, 250K at 10% is 25,000. 250K at 20% down is what? Is 50,000, right? At 20%, that's 50,000. So you're bringing down 50,000. Why you should have done it the investor way and bought it for cheap, used little money from out of pocket or from other sources. Now, the other difference between buying as an investor and buying as a regular human being is, aside bringing that 50K instead of 10K to the table, you're actually also, of course, you're not making money. You're probably losing 50K in cash right there, right? That's one thing. But also, I think I just lost my train of thoughts. Actually, something came up in my thought process about a very big chunky difference. Anyway, the money is a big part of it. But also, yes, how you come up with that 10K. So on the investor side of things, the 10K you can come up with from your credit card, right? It can come from anywhere. On the non-investor side of things, you can't just come up with 10K from nowhere. They really want to see where money is going. They're monitoring the accounts. Because if you come up with 10K from a credit product, they're saying, or the 50K in this time around from a credit product, now they're feeling like you cannot afford a house except you borrow, and you don't even want to touch the credits, right? When you're qualifying for a traditional property, or when you're qualifying for a property in the traditional way, you really don't want to touch your credit, because if your credit dips before closing, that's a problem. You might not be able to close. So it's very different. It's very creative. You can creatively fund your down payments. On the investor side of things, you cannot be as creative. You don't have it really means where you stand financially. So your financial profile is on the hook if you're buying a property the traditional way. Your financial profile is not on the hook the investor way. As long as you can show that money, they don't care if it was just wired to your account that same day. Nobody's asking you where you got that money from, right? It could have come in from your 401k, could have come in even from a credit card, could have come in from a line of credit, could have come in from a friend. Hey, can you send this over? I just want to show my lender and I will send that back to you because my money is still processing, or because my partner is still doing this, or because my bridge funding is still on the way. Nobody cares, right? So definitely coming up with less money on the investor side of things. Okay, cool. So, Biola was saying, you had a question about. I'm scrolling right now. How do we work the numbers? For a beginner, how do we work the numbers? The number is a learning process. Have you tried to get into coaching? Because you gotta practice. You gotta use your deal analyzer, practice different properties. As an investor, the bulk of your work is really just analyzing properties and making offers. Okay, so you're analyzing properties, you're making offers, and you learn as you go, right? So that's why you make money, because it does cost some consistency. It does cost some work. I mean, everything costs work. Whether you're idle, it's stressful sitting on the couch and watching TV, right? But whatever you just do in life, I mean, being broke is stressful. Being broke is stressful. If you want to make money, you definitely got to switch that stress over to a money making stress or a money making activity. But yes, you got to analyze and learn. It's a process. You continue to grow, understanding markets as you analyze. So yes, I definitely recommend that you join us in coaching. That's what we do. Okay, so for a beginner, how do we analyze numbers? That's how do we work the numbers? That's my response to that. Okay. I'd say 170 to 200K for an investment property in my area. Okay, cool. What area is that? I'm curious. What's a good credit score? What's the range? I think we mentioned this. So a good credit score would be 600 and up. And really, the higher your credit score, the better. There's nothing as wasteful as having a poor credit score. You lose a lot of money and opportunities when you have a poor credit score. Definitely put that into consideration. The better your credit looks, the better, the more money you make. And here's the thing, it doesn't mean that you cannot owe 20K in credit. It doesn't mean you cannot even owe 50K in credit. It just, you got to apply some wisdom, right? So there's something called credit limits, right? Say, so rather than just getting one card and then maxing the whole thing, you max the whole 5,000, and now your credit is at maybe in the 500s because you're at 100% maxed. And let's say my credit card, I probably owe 40,000, but no, it's not showing up. I still have an 800 score. I could, yeah, I could have an 800 score. I could have a 750 score even if I owe $40,000 in credit. Yeah. So the limits, when you're starting to build your credit, there's a process. You got to open up and build as much as possible and continue to increase your limits as you go. Because guess what? If you start to owe bigger than 30% of your credit score, is going to affect your credit score. So you start to see that big improvement when you drop how much you owe by less than 30% owed on the credit. So if I have a balance of $200,000 line of credit, personal, for instance, somebody has 10,000 and is owing 7,000, and maybe I owe 20,000. I owe more than this person, but my credit score is definitely better, right? So it's not saying not to owe. You just really, I know sometimes we don't get people to advise us on how these things work, but that's why you're here. When you're building, you really want to go after that limit. Again, if you need that training on credits, just type credits in the comments and I'll have Meg send that over to you. I'll send her the link after so you kind of get an idea. Especially if you're credit naive, it's important that you know how to even get started building and what are the things to look out for. The other thing is your age of credit score. Your age of credit. Let's say you're applying for a credit card every year. Now, that's going to water down the average age of your credits, right? So that's something you also should watch out for. Aside the hard inquiries will fall off eventually, but that age is also a big one that's kind of hard when you water it down. It's kind of hard. Let's say you had a card that was as old as 5 years, and now you're hearing about real estate investing. Now you feel, okay, let me open up more credit cards, and you open five more. So they're gonna average that first credit card 5 years, the next credit card 1, the other credit card 1 year, the other credit card 1 year, the other credit card 1 year, divided by 5, right? So now instead of your age of credit history being 5 years, now it's watered down into that average 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 divided by 5. Now that's what your age of credits would be, and it makes it look like you're not experienced or savvy in credit use. So that's one of the factors, and I think the training probably has like five different factors that you can look at. Aside the limits, the age is another one, and so on. So since it's not credit training, I'm going to move on from there. We could combine for more money. Okay, so now Perry, if that's your real name, if you were doing that partnership and you're combining for more money, I guess that's fine. That's if the investment property is like a huge one and you guys need 50,000. But if you need like 10,000 to get started, I would say actually just get started with 10,000 on a lower price point property than trying to combine 10,000 per person from five people and you're at 50K. I would say start, because when you're new, you're not aware of the complications in accounting. The accounting can get complex with partnerships. So yeah, I would say, start smaller and build from there when you start to feel comfortable. So as you're trying to understand the path on your new deal, you're not also struggling with accounting and trying to communicate to everyone, and maybe even giving room for miscommunication or the lack of it. Because now someone has to be responsible. There has to be like a split responsibility. There has to be like a joint venture agreement and all of that good stuff, or even an operating agreement for your LLC or your company. So in other, I don't know if it's really worth it, especially if you're keeping the property long term. It's not like a quick partnership where you're in and out within a 12-month period, you know, and that's it. But you really want to think about what you're doing. But yeah, if you absolutely need that, I guess it is what it is. But I would say, go for something that you're able to handle by yourself and also leverage, because I don't think instead of doing that kind of JV, I would probably do more of private money lending than do a JV of that nature. So just FYI on that one, and hope that it does make sense. Okay. Yeah, so Biola, if Meg can inbox you about coaching if you want, and we can have a discovery call about that. Thank you. How do you source local hard money lenders? Okay, you know what? Guess what? The resource for tonight, after this session, I have a resource that has that. The question here says, how do you source local hard money lenders? Well, I don't know where you're at, so local might be out of it, but sourcing hard money, I have that link after the training. Meg is gonna inbox it to you if you indicate that you want it here. So at that point, she can do that. Do you need LLC in the states you're buying a property? That's a good question. So yes, you do. And if your LLC is set up in a state outside of that, then you're applying as a foreign entity in the other states where you trying to do business. Okay, so any state you're doing business, you gotta be registered. Good question. Okay, cool. Hey, Facebook folks. How y'all doing? You said, are you correct? Correct about what, Ruth? Um, Remind me. Are you correct? Cash down, good credit. Okay. So you need good credit. What do you mean by good credit? Good credit. So guys, if you really want to know the credit that makes sense for most lenders, I'll say if you're at 660, you should be good. If you're 620, some lenders will say yes, some will say no. If you're 600, most lenders will say no, some will say yes. Um, if you're at maybe you're at 640, most a good chunk lenders will say yes, but 660 definitely. Where do you start to get really good juicy terms? 700 plus. Where do you start to qualify for business credits? So business credit cards, maybe even lines of credit, 700 plus, with that's a good established credit history. But at what point do you start to qualify for lenders on properties for investment purposes? 600 plus. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Yeah, I know I asked you a question. I asked you a lot of questions. Hey, Ruth. So, yes, you said cash down, you said good credit, and I just explained what good credit means. And cash down, I guess, maybe. Okay, just because I don't remember the actual question. Okay, cool. I appreciate that. I'm from Connecticut. Thank you. Okay, hi. Hi, my fellow Connecticut resident. Hello. Okay, cool. All right, so continue to type in your questions, and I'm gonna go into the other questions I got. So okay, it says, how is funding for investment properties different from primary residence? And I just explained that it's definitely different. Investment funding doesn't look at your debt to income ratio personally, and they don't need your W-2 or proof of income, so no one is looking at how much you're making as far as investment properties go. But on primary residence, you definitely need that. You're qualifying the traditional way. If you're owing too much debt on your credits or other kind of debts, or you have too much responsibility going on a month to month basis, and you hardly have any money left, or you have some money left, they calculate all of that. You shouldn't have more debts than you can afford on the new mortgage. And with the high interest rates right now, people are qualifying less on the traditional side of things because the mortgage is high. And if your income hasn't really increased over the years, then it's hard to show that you can actually pay for the mortgage on a monthly basis. So it's kind of tougher on the traditional side. On the last call, I showed you guys a trick on how to boycott all of that. I showed you guys, if you want that, what did we talk about? I know. I really consider, I was like, should I say, should I not? But it's a big juicy one. Um Last week's topic was on if I remember, I don't remember anymore. But we did it. So I'm trying to figure out what you can type in the comments. Type last week in the comments if you want the resource from last week. So that's on there. So if you feel like you're trying to qualify for a personal home and your income is not quite there yet, and you don't even know when it's going to be there, it's just your income is fixed, there's not much you can do about it except you start to like get 2 jobs or 3 jobs or something like that, which can be stressful, and you only have 24 hours in a day. But there's actually a trick where you're combining the real estate investor side with the to make your personal home happen. So type last week in the comments and Meg will send the resource from last week to you. So Perry, at the end of the call, you just need to indicate when I ask to type in for the resource for today. You just need to indicate so that she can actually send it to you. Okay. So please, Meg, take note of those that want the resources from last week. Okay. So another question I have here is what credit score? We did talk about that. Can I buy an investment property with no money down? What do you guys think? I want to see what you guys think. You think yes, no, yes, no. Just type that in the comment. So this person is asking if they can buy an investment property with no money out of no with no money down. Okay. So type yes or no in the comments while I go to the next one real quick. It says, how much down payment do I need for an investment property? We already talked about that. It's like everybody has the same question. What are the main types of funding available for investment properties? Okay. So let's see what you guys have in the comments. Say yes or no. No, I see no's here. Probably no. No money down. Okay, no. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. What is no money down? Because I think it's different for everyone. What does no money down mean? Does that mean A or B? So A, no money down means you're not putting any down payments. A. Or B, no money down means you're not bringing any money out of your own pocket. What is no money down? A or B? A, no down payments. B, no money out of your own pocket. A or B? What is no money down? I see one yes here. I want to see what you guys think about money down and no money down, A or B. A or B. A, no down payments. B, no money out of your pockets. What does no money down mean? Hi, Funke. Funke said B, no money out of your pockets. Anybody thinks otherwise? Anybody thinks A? A, okay, see A here. A, no money, no down payment. Okay, guys, so I think maybe it might be 50-50 because that's what it's looking like here. So, okay, B, somebody else says B. So, um, 60-30. I don't know. whatever that is. Um 40, I don't know. What's the math? 70 30. B. Okay. So, okay, another B. Okay. Now it's a proper 70 30. So most people think no money down means no money out of your pockets. Okay, so now let's rephrase the question. Is it possible to buy an investment property with no money out of your pocket? Okay, I see more B's now. Is it possible to buy an investment property with no money out of your pocket? Is it possible? Could you do that? How dare you? How dare you do that? No money out of your pocket. You're broke, but you're buying properties. Is it possible? Yes or no? Yes, Funke said yes. I see Ruth says yes. Cool. Uh, see, what do you guys think? So you guys already know this stuff, right? You guys know the stuff, right? Yes, it's possible. It's possible. I do it all the time. Guys, I don't put money in property. Yes, yes, cool. Yes, it's possible to buy with no money out of pockets. Okay, cool. Wow, I'm so proud. Cool. Okay. Okay, so Ruth goes ahead to say private money lender. That's good. I like that. You got the gist. That's one option. What other options do we have for no money out of pocket if you wanted to buy investment properties, not just one property, two properties or more? If you plan yourself correctly, if you're doing what you should do. So outside of private money, what else would you do to if you wanted to buy a property with no money out of your pockets? I feel like maybe people know these things, but they don't want to do it. So you gotta choose. If you don't want to do anything, then pay. Pay. If you're not gonna do what you're supposed to do, pay for it. Pay for it. If you're really serious about buying properties, you're gonna do what you need to do. Use okay, cool, cool. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, cool. Yes, it's possible to buy with no money out of pocket. You guys are right, and you guys already know. You guys already know. Credit. Thank you very much. Credit, business credits. What does veteran mean? Veteran. What do you mean by veteran? Veteran. I'm trying to think. Do you mean, I don't know, is that like the V? I don't know. Are you talking about funding? Or what exactly do you mean by veteran? Rent to own. Okay, cool. I love rent to own. I'm actually a rent to own pro, if I say so myself, because that's how I started to invest in real estate. My first deals were rent to own. I consider myself a pro, even though I don't do a lot of rent to owns anymore. Use credit card depending on the type of property. Good, good. So you can even use a credit card. You cannot dare do that for a personal property. You cannot. But for investment property, you can use credit card. Yes, that is true. Okay, so you already answered the question, really. I didn't even need to say anything. Everybody here answered it. Yes, you can buy properties with no money out of your pockets. Yes. Can you buy a property with no down payments? Maybe. It depends on the lender. Who are you using? Like I was saying, in coaching, we have a lender who does 100% purchase price and also 100% repairs, right? So if you have those kind of lenders, yeah, right. But they do that with your second deal and upwards. So you need that experience. Wholesaling. Okay, wholesaling. Okay, yes, it's true. Even though you don't keep the property, you assign the rights to the purchase of that property to somebody else who will go ahead and own the property and do whatever they want to do with it. But yes, wholesaling is also a good one. Sometimes you only need like $10 to as earnest money, or whatever you're comfortable with, $100, whatever you're comfortable with as earnest money deposit, as long as there's mutual understanding about that. So yes. Okay, cool. You guys are awesome. So, what other questions do we have here? What is private money and how do I find private lenders? I'm sure we've had a session on private money before. Okay, if you need private money resource type, I'm going to look for it and send that over to Meg. So, please type PML, private money lending, in the comments. And please, Meg, take notes, screenshots if you can, because once we're out of here for um, for Instagram Live, it's probably just gonna go off. I don't think that you're able to retrieve the comments, so maybe a screenshot would help. So if you want resource on private money lending, I'm sure we've done a couple of trainings on that. Please type that in there, and we'll send that over. What is hard? Okay. How much interest do hard money lenders usually charge? Okay. And then one more question here says, do I need experience to get private or hard money funding? Okay, how much interest do hard money lenders usually charge? It could range from 9 to 12% usually. That's reasonable, 9 to 12%. And 9 to 12% is so here's how it works. You can pay 12% interest on a property on a month-to-month basis. That's interest only, and still make 5 figures, maybe even 6 figures on that property, right? So would you rather pay 12% interest on a certain amount than, or you rather partner with somebody that has the whole entire money and split the profits in half? Of course, you're going to make more money if you did the hard money side of things, right? You're not splitting your profit, you're only paying a certain portion into interests. It's up to you. Do you have the money? If you have the money, then go for it, right? If you don't have the money, you got to be humble. You can't make the money alone. You got to share that profit. So yes, there is interest to pay, and that's why before going into the deal, you make sure that your numbers are making sense. If your numbers don't make sense, don't do the deal. If it makes sense, in fact, if you're taking money from a credit card, you're putting in all the interests into your analyzer, making sure that what you're going to get at the end of the day makes a whole lot of sense. Your return on investment makes sense, and it's a really good chunky profits that's worth your time before going into the deal. If you're not analyzing, you're just going on the surface, you're going to lose money, unfortunately. It's not bad luck, it's just the truth. You're going to lose money if you're not putting numbers together in details. So don't be someone who just hears of a property and says it's cheap. In our coaching class yesterday, we were looking at some 3 different properties that were at $50,000 price points. Okay, so someone who's looking at that from an expensive market will say that's so cheap. But when we crunched those numbers into the deal analyzers, only maybe 1.5 of the deal made sense. Most of the deals or so didn't make sense to go for, except you're making a way lower offer. So don't be that guy who sees a property in another market and thinks, oh, that's so cheap, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna just repair, fix it up, and how bad can it get? It can get really bad. Okay, so don't do that. Okay, cool. So I see all those private money resource, and I'll find those. Please, Meg, remind me to send you that link. Okay, I think there was one other question. We'll take that last question, and we should be good to hand out the resource for today or tonight. And here, I did skip some questions that we already talked about. So I'm trying to find that one that says, okay, so how much interest do hard money lenders usually charge? We talked about that. Do I need experience to get private or hard money funding? No, you don't need experience to get private or hard money lending. Private, yes, private money lending is something you gotta learn. You have a system where you do that, and we have resources on private money. If you said PML, you will get that resource, and then hard money. No, you don't need experience. Your numbers need to make sense, and it helps if you have an affiliate relationship, which we also have in our coaching affiliate relationship with money lenders where they know they're coming from coaching and they're comfortable lending to them because they've done their numbers right. If your numbers are not making sense, no, the lenders would not want to lend to you. So yes, and yeah, I invite you into coaching if you want to be a part of us investing, buying properties, making profits, maybe even not needing your job in the nearest future, like me, not needing a 9 to 5. I definitely invite you into coaching to get your journey started. It does start in a day, right? The day you decide to start is really when you started, and you start to journey from there. There is a good chunk of things to learn. So, yes, if you want the resource for tonight, please type resource in the comments, okay? And we're gonna have those sent over to you if you want the resource. The resource for tonight is about lending, and that would be the lending guide, and just answering your questions on lending and giving you resource. And there's also a list of money lenders on there. So type resource in the comments if you want the resource for the night. And then if you want to get into coaching and doing things the right way, starting to implement. If you don't implement, you can't really get farther than where you're at, especially if you're not already in coaching. Some of you guys here are already in coaching, but if you're here and you're not in coaching and you're really passionate about starting your own journey, definitely type coaching in the comments, and we're gonna and we got you. We got you. So type coach in the comments and just watch your inbox, because that's about the only way right now that we can reach out to you. So if you're serious about starting your journey, type coach in the comments and make sure you watch your inbox. I think that we went over all the questions, and I hope that you had fun on this live session. Please say good night to everyone, and thank you for being here. Please say good night to me as well, kindly. Thank you very much. Say good night to me. I would love that. Say good night, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Good night, and thank you for being here. Good night.